Afternoon, guys. As some of you probably know, it's my birthday today. Those of you on my Facebook, I'm sure, saw that. Means I completed another trip around the sun. Not much else. But happy birthday to me. I do appreciate those of you on Facebook who have sent your well wishes. I do have one birthday wish, and that is that I can keep this Jazz Shepherd channel going. To all you on Patreon who have subscribed, minimum of $5 a month, thank you. I received my first payout this week. It's been very nice. I'm unemployed, and my job DJing is not coming back anytime soon. So those of you who appreciate this channel and the content on it, if you could donate, subscribe $5 a month on my Patreon page, it'd be very appreciated. I don't like to have to do this very often, but I do want to continue this channel. And if I get forced to have to go back to 9 to 5 somewhere, I'm just not going to have the time to put into this channel and be a husband and a father and all the other things. I'd like to do this full time. I got the passion for it. I got the record collection to kind of inform me, and the deeper I dive into it, the more I feel like this is what I should be doing. It really feels home, comfortable, like the next chapter for me. After my years as a DJ, my first 15 years as a musician, to spend my next 15, 20, 30 years talking about music and consciousness and the soul and our places in the cosmos and how music connects with all that, and how jazz is one of the most powerful medicines for the human condition, and how different fuels source our arts. It all comes together for me, and I just would like to think that if I get more subscribers, it will help. You know, we got bills to pay, and I'm going to move on. But that being said, if you have the chance to head out to my Patreon page and subscribe, $5, $10 a month, it helps. And if I get enough of you to do it, we'll be able to keep doing this for the foreseeable future. I got so many ideas left to come. I do want to talk to you guys and get some suggestions again. A lot of you people are going back to work. It's getting harder and harder to keep up with the content. I always get kind of a mixed bag when I ask this stuff. But do people want me to go every other day? Maybe split longer episodes into 2 parts over 2 days? I'm trying to navigate it, trying to figure out the best way. Obviously, YouTube revenues are minimal, so I'm not really concerned about how that is affected. And that's the thing, is that I don't make money from YouTube. Patreon's the only way I've been able to make a buck so far. It's pennies a day at YouTube at this point. But I was doing some work at the basement. I'm a little dusted out right now. But this is a wonderful opportunity for me. I've really met some wonderful people, and I love the dialogue I have with so many of you in conversations on Facebook, over the telephone with some of you, even just here on the YouTube comments. You're a great group. You're a knowledgeable group. You're a passionate group. I'm honored to be able to be a part of your guys' community and lives, and I'm glad that I present something that people find valuable. It's been a great year for me, and 2020 has been a tough year in a lot of ways, no secrets about it. From unemployment to the virus to my wife working on the homeless shelter and the stresses that comes from that. 2 kids out of school, not doing well with their online schooling whatsoever. There's a lot of stressors in life. And DJing's just not coming back anytime soon. It's pretty obvious. The virus ain't going anywhere. So, again, if you have it, if not, I understand completely. Other people are as broke as me, I'm sure. But I also got some new records here that came in the last few weeks. I want to show you a few things. This is going to be some West Coast stuff I got. I got some cool East Coast stuff to show you, too, in one of my next episodes. We'll be wrapping up the top 10, 5 through number 1 on the saxophones probably tomorrow. My wife had to work today, so we're hoping we can get it bagged this evening and publish it tomorrow. I got a great new series coming on, 36 records from a year. That's going to try to give us a cross-section of what's happening, what was cutting edge, where was the cutting edge at. We're going to try to do from 55 to 65, see where that takes us. I got 55 in the bag. It was really fun to do it. And I also want to kind of give you a feeling of what it would be like to walk into a record store in 1955 and what would be on the wall, what would be the new releases. And it was kind of cool seeing it. I put 36 records up. on a display case, as it were. And it was a cool little time capsule of that moment. Some pretty good stuff. So that's been fun. I've been having a fun time learning as I've been going. It's been incredibly mind-broadening in so many ways, the things I've been intersecting with and seeing. Another little revelation I had is that doing the saxophone series of over 150 guys and seeing how many of these guys there were that made it to the big leagues of jazz, as it were, and how many of the white guys actually made a better living at it, better colleges, better tours, better distribution, their labels, better paydays, how many of those guys have fell into obscurity. But then I had this kind of little epiphany this morning. There wasn't black bands being hired in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, even into the 60s by white families for bar mitzvahs, anniversaries, weddings, parties, what have you. And DJs that were for hire, rock bands, that stuff comes along in the 70s, 80s, 90s. For 4 decades, bands, orchestras, were what you hired for events. And I have to correct a statement I said. I said for all these guys we've known, there were hundreds that went unknown. And it has to be amended. There has to be thousands of white jazz musicians that played this music, were enticed by it, and moved on with their lives and were forgotten. But if you think about how there was no DJs, there was no rock bands, no funk bands, there wasn't even radio like there was in the present until the 30s and the 40s, and even that was kind of regional, small bandwidth. If you were out in the boondocks, you didn't have a lot of radio opportunities. So you hired bands, and every town had a few bands. And if you were in a bigger town, you had a dozen bands. And if you're in a bigger town, you had hundreds of bands. And these bands were mostly white. And they showed up and played all your holiday parties, all your anniversaries, your birthdays. If you wanted to have a party, you wanted to have a band. And these bands were all trying to play that black music. And you knew that your mom and dad weren't going to hire a bunch of black guys to play your party. I'm turning 17. I like Count Basie. I like Miles Davis. Sorry, son. I got you a band. And every white kid whose parents hired a band for them sat there hoping, God, I hope they sound black. Which just means I hope they swing. And that's kind of the measuring stick of these bands is, did they swing? And so, not hundreds, but thousands of white musicians must have made a living for 3-4 decades as horn players, percussion players, piano players, playing this black music, making a living doing it, while the great black inventors of this music struggled to survive. And you think about it, it's deeper than we think, because I might have 4 children, and my children like some black influenced music. It's 1958. And I know my son's been listening to that John Coltrane, that Sonny Rollins. Heck, I even like some of that Sonny Rollins, Miles Davis stuff. Did you hear that Porgy and Bess Miles did? I kind of liked it. It was kind of nice. And so I might not be racist in any way. But what are my neighbors going to say if I bring a bunch of black guys to play music in my backyard for my son's birthday party, for my bat mitzvah, for my anniversary, for my Christmas party? A white event did not hire black musicians. Whites would go see blacks in a nightclub where it was sanctioned. And we understood that was the arrangement. But for the most part, white America hired white bands to play black music for 40 years and never hired a single black band. Which means the black bands had to get their work in the black community, which they did, but the black community is what? 8% of the country, 10%? And so think about how much less opportunity black musicians had to make a living. Think about how much more competition there was for those jobs. And how much of it have felt to watch half-assed white bands all day long making decent money doing this music, trying to sound as black as they could. It's just like hip-hop, you know? And most of the white players ended up being forgotten. Most of the white hip-hoppers will end up being forgotten. But it just, when I thought about that fact, that they weren't hiring DJs in the 30s and 40s to play their parties, they brought in bands. And it just was an eye-opener. I'm like, man, there had to be thousands of white musicians making a living playing jazz music, and the brothers could barely scrape by. Kind of an interesting thought on my birthday. Played you some Blakey while we did that, Mr. Thunderhands himself. I'm going to show you a few new pieces I picked up just for fun. This is some West Coast stuff I got. It's my birthday. I bought a few things online the last few weeks. Some of it's come, some of it hasn't got here yet. This is a fun Nat Pierce piano player on Fantasy Blue Clear 10-inch vinyl. It's got the great Dick Collins on it. And that's a great example of some white cats playing that black music and kind of swinging. Dick Collins is a fine player. That's him right there. He got a nice tone. But that's West Coast cool. It's melancholy, somber, mellow. I love the cover. The cover is absolutely outstanding. That swings pretty hard. It's Woody Herdsman guys. Woody Herman's Herd. The Herdsman. Dick Collins, Nat Pierce. And there's a few other Herdsmen on this too, if I recall. Come on now. There we go. I think Cy Tooth is on this. Jerry Coker, Dick Hafer. Yeah, so it's a lot of those guys from the Herman's Herd, Woody Herman's groups. Chico Hamilton has 3 records on Warner Brothers, 1960 or so, and I've had 2 of them for a while. Gong's East and something else I can't recall. This is the 3rd one, and I finally found this. And when I buy stuff online, I only am looking for one thing. I'm looking for this one record, and when I find it, I search that store, and I see what else that guy has that I'm interested in that's at a good price. And so I grab stuff like this. You know, it's like, it's a fun 10-inch. It's a part of the history, and it doesn't want to go back in it. Chico's Warner Brothers stuff is kind of in a traditional era between his time at Pacific and before he goes to Impulse. It's often, I think this is actually when Mingus is working with them, doing some arranging. And Dolphy was around the crew at this point too. But this is a fun little record. I've only listened to a little bit of it so far. I don't know who's singing on that. It sounds like it's Chico we're singing. The 3 Faces of Chico. Okay, so he's singing, he's playing the drums, and leading a band, playing vibes too, maybe? Let's see what else we got here. And remember, Chico was doing chamber music on the West Coast. That's cool. And Chico, to me, is like cool jazz with that chamber element to it. Stan Kenton, his records are cheap. I have a lot of his Capitol stuff. It swings hard, And I realized I didn't have this when I wanted to have it. I think it was a buck or two. And just doing my sax series, seeing how many guys were in that band. For that reason alone, Stan Kenton's records are noteworthy. You know, he's really housing a lot of the great young white talent. On this record alone, Stan Kenton, we got on piano, on trumpet, Stu Williamson. Saxophones, we have Charlie Mariano, Lenny Niehaus, Bill Perkins, Dave Van Crete. Trombones, we have Carl Fontana, Don Kelly, Max Bennett's on the bass, Mel Lewis is on the drums. Like, that's a lot of white jazz talent from the 50s and 60s in one group. And so, and it's actually pretty cooking, you know? It's fun. And Kenton's stuff can at times have some edges to it. You know, it's certainly got elements and roots of, you know, Ellington at times. Another fun West Coast set I grabbed, the Master Sounds. And the Master Sounds, of course, are Wes Montgomery's brothers, Buddy and Monk Montgomery, maybe. I think there's 3 of them. And they're the Master Sounds. And Wes plays them at times. And they're great. It's nice swinging, cool jazz from the West Coast. And they're doing the compositions of Horace Silver here, which that's pretty legit, you know. And so I enjoy the 3 sound. I mean the Master Sounds. They're fun. I got probably 6 or 7 of their records, and this is what it is. It's cooking, peeling pineapple music. You know, you can have a good time to it. One of the coolest things I got here, and I really am proud of this one. I found this kind of during my saxophone series, and I was reading about Buddy Collette. And Buddy Collette was a much more important figure than I realized. He wasn't just a member of the Chico Hamilton group. He was a very influential multi-instrumentalist that ends up having a long career in Hollywood, entertainment. He's a big-time musician of the highest degree and had a lot of impact and opened a lot of doors for black musicians. And I discovered that Collette had a couple records I didn't have. One on ABC, which I have on the mail, in them coming in the mail, and then one on a label called Dig, and it's Johnny Otis's, a West Coast singer, if I recall, label that he starts called Dig Records. And one of his first, if not first, records was this Buddy Collette record, Tanganyika. And I'd seen this in books before, didn't have enough knowledge to know that, okay, Buddy Collette, that's who this is, that's what this is about, early West Coast stuff. The cover alone is just fantastic. Buddy Collette, Chico Hamilton, Jimmy Hall, Curtis Collins, John Anderson, and Gerald Wiggins. It's actually a pretty outstanding lineup. It's pretty mixed. You got, I think John Anderson's a white guy and Jimmy Hall is white. The other 4 guys are brothers. The other 4. Modern Afro-American jazz featuring Buddy Collette. It's just a great cover. The Dig label. And I think it's number 101, yeah, J101, which makes me think it's probably the first, maybe the second, maybe there's a 1/100, a J100, but it was a short-lived label. I think they only made a half dozen things, and this is one of them, and I'm pretty thrilled with it. It's such a cool timepiece. Again, the album cover. It's a little politically incorrect today, supposedly, but at the time, it was just how the world was. It's even got the nipples down there, I didn't notice that. They produced it by a guy named Sleepy Stein. So when Johnny Otis starts this label, nice, that was dope. When Sleepy Otis starts this label, he has this Jewish fellow by the name of Sleepy Stein produced the sessions and arranged the session. Don't know nothing about him, but the name Sleepy Stein sounds great. And you probably have a Mafia connection somewhere. If your name is Sleepy Stein, I'm just guessing. So that's a really cool piece I got. And the guy had it listed, believe it or not, as a fair or a good plus. And I'd have rated this more as a VG plus. It's a great condition. It's beautiful. So this guy, some graders are different than others, you know. Very happy with this. Cool as it gets, boy. And you can hear how Collette is preparing himself for the film industry. This sounds like the back of a Cary Grant film, you know. I showed you guys this the other day in my SAG series, but I finally got this Gene Norman Presents Frank Morgan record on GNP. This is a tough record to come by. They can go for pretty good money. And this is a much hotter, that's a much hotter West Coast sound right there. And it's actually got Machito, the rhythm section Latin, kind of tinged behind it there. But Frank Morgan can play. I talked about him in the sax thing. He was supposed to be the next Parker. Parker died. He was kind of anointed as the next thing. And he turned into a drug addict and went to jail and disappeared for 30 years. But this is a great find. It's got the masking tape. The record's probably only a very good minus. But I'm not in it for perfect condition records necessarily. I'm in it more to understand the music. And an archaeologist can learn a lot from a pottery shard. He doesn't need the full Voss to understand the culture he's trying to understand. And I feel that way about a lot of these records. I'll be happy with a copy that's got some dings and marks because I want to learn what it can tell me. I'm not so much interested in sitting back with my glass of champagne critiquing how my speakers sound today, darling. It's not I don't ever do that. You know, and nothing wrong with doing it. There's a lot of people who do, more power to them, you know. But my mind's in a different place. I'm all sitting back, analyzing this place in history. Where was this in the curve of the innovations of the time? What was the label thinking? Who were they marketing it to? How bold were they being in their choices? I'm always in that aspect. And you can learn a lot from a record that's not in great shape if you're only trying to get its place in jazz history. I'm not sitting back in my music theater listening to my mint condition records. I just don't, I never do it. I never do it. This is also on GNP, the singer Francis Faye. And it's an old GNP record, great cover. It shows the nightclub there, the Crescendo, which was a pretty famous West Coast club. Says Count Basie on the billboard. With Mort Saul, the comedian, and Francis Faye. I haven't listened to it yet, to be honest. It's a great cover, again on the Gene Norman Presents label, who was a West Coast DJ, from my understanding. Also on GNP, and I got this because I just gotten the Frank Morgan record. I found this GNP collection, Be Our Guest. And it's actually in really mint shape. I think it's even a promo white label. And it's got Frank Morgan on here, Charlie Ventura, Buddy DeFranco, Dizzy Gillespie, Jerry Mulligan, Lyle Murphy, Max Roach, Sunset Eyes. There's some pretty serious stuff on this collection. It's a nice way to delve into a label, is to get a label compilation like this. And I bet you can find that for $5 and get to know some of these artists on GNP. So that's a cool find. And a lot of times I don't search so much by artists, I search by labels. I'm into this label right now. Let's see what I can find by this label. Get to know that part of the chapter. And there's a geography and a chronology to all that that helps you understand the music. This was also featured in my SAG series yesterday with the Ben Webster episode. Webster was locked down in a club with Jerry Mulligan, backing the great Jimmy Witherspoon. And Witherspoon's one of the great blues soul singers from the West Coast. This is on the small hi-fi jazz label. And another label I don't have a lot from. But it's got a great plastic inner sleeve that says hi-fi jazz on it. fantastic, great sounding. Mel Lewis, Leroy Vinegar, and Jimmy Rowles round out the group. Great stuff. And again, it's just a label I like. I was actually looking for Ben Webster stuff for my dock, and found that. There's Webster. I love the breathiness of Ben Webster. And then the last thing I want to show you, one last West Coast record I got here. This is on the Contemporary label. He makes records as a piano player on Contemporary throughout the 3500 series, which was the mono, 7000 series was the stereo. But into the 3600 series, he continues to make some good stuff. This is 3622. And so this is a little bit later, probably 1961, 62, I'm guessing. I like Phineas a lot. The stuff with Roy Haynes and Paul Chambers, of course, is well known. Looks like it's actually from 69. It's later than I thought. But so Contemporary slows down quite a bit. It's 69. Wow, how's that possible? Anyway, that's a fun little West Coast record. That wraps up this episode today. I should get the top 10 finished tonight with my wife, and at that point, I'll air those tomorrow. Y'all be safe. Thank you for all the birthday wishes that you've all sent. And like I said, my birthday wish is to keep this channel going. So those of you who haven't supported the channel and have the opportunity to, I'm asking for $5 a month. Just help me stay afloat, guys. Appreciate you all. Be safe. Peace.